You're listening to Something Cheeky,
a collection of podcasts where two sisters discuss TV, books, and movies with just enough irreverence and far too many pop culture references. Welcome to Something Cheeky, the Gentleman Bastards edition, where we discuss the Lies of Locke Lamora, book one of the series by Scott Lynch. I'm Nikki.
I'm Rosanna.
While I've read the entire series, Rosanna has only read up to what we're covering today, which is Chapter 16, Justice is Red, and the following interlude, A Minor Prophecy. In this chapter, Locke saves the last dance for the Grey King. Okay, Rosanna, what was your reaction to this chapter?
So this chapter was kind of sad because it's the last real chapter of the book. It was sort of overwhelming because so much happened and so many ends were tied up.
And this was a really long chapter, too.
It was really long.
I think you said at one point that it was hard to imagine a satisfying ending because we were to the end, basically, and there was still so much that was unresolved.
Yeah, they resolved a lot of it.
Are you satisfied with how it's gone so far?
I guess there's still more that I'd like to know that I've accepted I'm not going to.
We do have one chapter left, the epilogue, so...
That's not really a chapter. It's an epilogue. It's not the same.
It's true. It does function very much like a chapter.
And I don't know with this series of books if a book later will fill in blanks from this book.
Okay.
I would assume yes.
What kinds of blanks are you hoping to fill in?
Well, there's a giant hole shaped like Sabbatha, so there's that.
Yeah.
Obviously, we have this whole history about Locke and how Locke's not his name, and where did he come from, and who's he related to, and how did he come up with this name? You know, we didn't really get much of his history. I don't know. I don't know if the next book is going to have a lot of flashbacks. I know it doesn't have interludes, right?
It has reminiscences.
Oh, well, that's kind of the same.
In between chapters, yeah. But only in between the first, I think, 6 chapters, and then it's just chapters after that.
Okay, well, that's weird.
Yeah, it is really weird. Well, what was your favorite quote this time?
So the quote I chose is when Locke and Raza are still talking, but Locke finally gets it out of Raza that the whole reason he targeted the Gentleman Bastards was for money.
Yeah.
Which I hated. I hated that.
It was disappointing that was the reason for so much destruction.
Yeah. And Locke says, I would have given it all to keep Callow and Galdo and Bug alive. I would have given it all had you put it to me like that. It just makes me so sad because he says to him, we weren't even stealing to have the money. We were stealing to steal.
Yeah.
We would have given you the money. We would have been mad about it. We would have come after you about it. But it didn't have to be that way.
Yeah. And that's a tough thing to find out because you were so sure that it was some personal vendetta that the Grey King was carrying out against the Gentleman Bastards.
So a lot of people do a lot of horrible things just for money. But I was hoping for more than that. Not that it would have made it any better. I just don't think he had to kill them.
I agree.
I can just imagine Locke saying that. I can see him saying that. I can see his eyes full of tears. Just full of regret.
Well, let's get into the action. Because a whole hell of a lot happened in this chapter.
So much.
So... listeners, if you heard the last episode, you heard the very beginning of this chapter because I read it to Rosanna while she was shocked. I liked that. Listeners, if you liked that, listening to Rosanna hear it as she was reading it for the first time or hearing it for the first time, let us know. If you hated me reading pages at a time, you should tell us that too. But if you didn't hear the last episode, I'm going to just do a little quick recap over what happened in the very first part of the chapter that I read. We were in the hovel, and Locke had just discovered the Falconer who was basically torturing Jean and had somehow knocked out Ibelius. It turns out the Falconer didn't know that Locke was still alive. He was actually just there to kill Jean for killing the Bologna twins. But he's pretty happy that Locke turned up as well, so he can kill him too. And he found Jean by tracking the blood on the knife that the twins cut him with, not knowing it would actually be Jean. Which the first time I read this, I was really surprised because it just seemed so obvious that of course it was Jean that killed them. Who else could have done that?
Mm-hmm.
I was glad that he was surprised that the Gentleman Bastards were still being underestimated, which is only to their benefit. It reminded me of in the Dresden Files, It's a series of books about a wizard named Harry Dresden. There's one spell he can do that's a tracking spell that he can do using something, some part of a person. Like blood is one of the things, and there's one scene in one of the books where he's using blood to track it, but it doesn't just tell him exactly where to go. He gets the scent like an animal, and so he gets the scent, he hails a cab, and then sticks his head out the window to follow the scent, keeps telling the cab where to turn. So he's like a dog with his head hanging out the window, smelling this scent and following it across Chicago. It's really funny. I was really sad that we didn't get to see the Falconer do anything like this, because it would have been hilarious.
Yeah.
Just picturing our Tom Hiddleston Falconer, his head hanging out the side of a carriage, trying to keep a scent. So the Falconer had written Jean's true name, commanded him to take up the Wicked Sisters and kill Locke, but then he stopped, because then he realized it would be way better and tougher on Locke if Locke killed Jean. And he wrote Locke down as supposedly what he thought Locke's true name was, and commanded him to kill Jean. But it turns out that is not Locke's true name, which is totally what we suspected in the very first chapter. We had wondered why a child would come up with a name like Locke, and it just seemed suspicious. Also, Falconer is a psychopath.
Yeah. Before,
it just seemed like he was following orders and just getting things done, but he is reveling in the suffering of these people, which is, I'm sure, not called for in his contract. He's not getting paid for this.
Right.
He commanded Locke to kill Jean, and Locke actually kind of felt something in the air around him that felt, I guess, compulsion-like, but it didn't actually compel him to kill Jean, because Locke is not his true name after all. So he ended up getting the upper hand and beating up the Falconer, and Jean, came back from being tortured and was able to help as well, and they got the Falconer tied down on the floor and killed Ventress. And that's where the second part of the chapter started. So in this part of the chapter, they start, I guess, basically just torturing the Falconer for information. They have some questions, they want them answered, and Locke says, I'm not going to kill you. I'm going to play a little game I like to call Scream in Pain until you answer my fucking questions. As we know, because everyone has reminded us constantly throughout this book, if you kill a Bonds Mage, the whole Bonds Magi collective is going to come after you, and it's not going to be pretty. They start cutting off the Falconer's fingers. One for Callow, one for Galdo, one for Bug, and then the rest for Locke and Jean themselves. They cauterize the wounds so he doesn't bleed out, so they don't kill him. And Locke threatens to cut out his tongue if he doesn't answer their questions, and the Falconer finally submits. So, one thing that just occurred to me, too, is you had wondered before what the Falconer's name was. It's just kind of a passing question in one of our episodes. And now that we know so much about using true names, it makes complete sense why the Falconer does not use his actual name.
Right. I'm sure none of the Bonds Mages do.
Yeah, that would be ridiculous.
And just because you're part of this community of the Bonds Magi doesn't mean they never turn against each other.
That's true.
So I'm sure they don't use their names.
Yeah.
But the thing about Locke feeling that compulsion, I think it's because he's gone by Locke for so long that he does associate his identity with that a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was easy for him to shake it off because that's not actually his name.
But yeah, 20 years of using
it. Yeah,
it.
But I think the reason he felt the compulsion was because it really kind of is his name.
Yeah.
So.
Were you surprised the Falconer was so upset when Ventress died? I mean, it was...
No.
Oh, really? Okay.
No. I think that they were a part of each other by this point. Though, I think that's probably the only thing that the Falconer had any sort of emotional attachment to. I don't think he's capable of it otherwise because he really is a sociopath.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to imagine him having actual feelings.
And I don't even know if he was upset because he was sad or just because he was in so much pain.
Well, he was sobbing after he woke up and found that Ventress was dead.
Yeah, but that also could be pain.
I guess so.
But yeah, I do think that I wasn't surprised that he was really upset. And stupid, I almost felt bad for him.
They really get ya.
I kind of felt bad for Raza, too, when I knew that he was dealing with his sisters being murdered. Even though he's a terrible person.
I am glad that Lynch doesn't write one-dimensional characters.
Yeah.
It's nice to have kind of evil characters, supervillains that aren't evil just for evil's sake. They have real reasons, explanations as to how they got that way. We don't know Falconer's, but we know Raza's at this point, and it explains a lot. So the Falconer finally gives in because he does not want to lose his tongue and says he'll answer questions. We find out that the money stolen from the gentleman bastards wasn't part of the original plan, it doesn't sound like. The Falconer found out about that money when he was spying on them in the burrow in the first place, or when Ventress was. Though I still don't know how Ventress was spying on them in the burrow without them noticing. That's fishy to me.
Yeah.
Unless he took over, like, a bug or something and walked it in
Maybe.
the way he did the Salt Devils. And then, because they found out about that money, the Grey King decided to steal it to pay for an extra month of the Falconer's services. Which, I don't remember how much they said originally that Bond's Magi get paid. And I know it varies depending on their skill level. They had, 40,000 crowns? And that is 1 month of his services. That is insanely expensive.
It's no wonder more people don't use them.
Yeah. And it was really sad, too, when we found out at that point that they were only killed because of the money, the twins and Bug. We also find out that Luciano Anatolius is the Grey King, or Roz's real name. His father was a powerful merchant that was killed because he was mad he was excluded when the secret peace was being set up. And I don't know why they needed to do this, but they also killed his wife and 3 of his 6 children.
I also do not know why they did that.
Yeah, why was that necessary?
It wasn't.
I mean, I'm pretty sure they get the point.
Could they have just killed him? It's not like the wife would have been like, all right, well, now I'm going to avenge you. I'm sure she would have just been like, hey, I'm grateful all my kids are alive. Let's just move.
Though, I am reminded of the chapter that's literally just teaching us that the Komori are all about revenge.
That's true. I did forget about that. They are.
And that chapter is proven correct, for all Komori we know, by the Grey King getting to this point.
Really, overreactions to their revenge schemes.
Yeah, I understand getting back at the person who caused that to happen, but everybody else that is tangentially associated with that person?
Yeah, getting back at the 6-year-old who was the grandchild of somebody that bugged you.
Yeah, makes no sense. That's pathological. Luciano and the twins, Sharon and Raza, which is 1 letter from Raza. I'm wondering if that's somehow related to it. They were secreted away by a maid who pretended they were her children and spent 22 years preparing to take revenge on Barsavi.
Yeah, they started it on the boat.
Yeah.
That was getting them away.
Yeah. The Grey King, or Luciano, became a pirate, a really, really good pirate.
Like the Dread Pirate Roberts. Did you not think of that too?
I did. He's also very good with a sword. I'm not left-handed either. Waiting for that to happen during the sword fight between Locke and Raza.
I must admit, you are better than me. Then why are you smiling? Because I am not left-handed.
Oh, so good. So, as a pirate, he is the captain of the Satisfaction, the plague ship that he's been sending money to. It has all the money from the Gentleman Bastards and from Capa Raza. And all of it's going to the bonds mages. So actually, it's not just the 40,000 crowns that they've stolen. It's everything Barsavi had, too. So who knows how much that is.
Yeah, it's all the money.
The Falconer wants to know if Locke plans to kill the Grey King. And he says, Illa justica via cala, which is justice is red, in bad throne Theron. Not as bad as my throne Theron, but still.
We're not here to judge you, Nikki.
Thanks. The Falconer is suddenly laughing, not because he's not left-handed either, but because Locke has to choose between killing the Grey King in the floating grave or stopping the Grey King's bigger plan, which is gentling the nobility of Camor. Were you surprised to find out that the pyramids of glass and gold are filled with Wraithstone?
I was surprised it was Wraithstone, because I had kind of forgotten that was a thing. I was not surprised they were filled with something destructive.
Yes.
I kind of saw it coming. I thought they were going to be bombs, which they kind of were, but I thought they were going to be blow up the buildings and they tip over into town bombs, so. Except
they're Elderglass, so they're not going anywhere.
Well, maybe they found a new Elderglass explosive. I don't know.
Oh man, that just made me think of the worst possible explosive device ever, which is some sort of explosive thing that throws off Elderglass shrapnel.
Ugh.
That would be so bad.
That would definitely just kill you.
I have no idea where they would get shrapnel since they can't break Elderglass in the first place, but I guess we're safe from that.
They'd have to have a bomb made out of Elderglass to break the Elderglass. I guess. It's Elderglass Inception.
I still think that. I heard you like Elderglass, so I put Elderglass in your Elderglass. Oh, I will never get tired of that meme. I love it.
It's so funny.
Every time. It's so simple.
Yep.
It's genius. Makes me happy. Okay. So the bomb is going to go off at false light and gentle everybody in Raven's reach. Locke's plan, of course, Locke's plan is to save all the people. Did you doubt for any moment that he would want to kill Raza first? Or choose Raza over all the nobility?
I assumed that he was going to do both.
But which one did you think he would do first? For a couple sentences, we didn't know which one he was going to pick.
I didn't know. I guess I just was kind of just going through it, and I didn't pause to think about it.
Yeah.
Because I was just ready for it to get to where it was going. And I didn't really care which one he did first, as long as he did both.
It's kind of amazing that he was able to do both, though.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like a Mission Impossible kind of thing. It's like, how could you possibly have done that? I don't know. Just take my word for it. Suspend your... What's the word?
Willing suspension of disbelief.
Yes, that's exactly what it was. It was a willing suspension of disbelief.
So we also learned that the Grey King is deadly with a blade. All I was thinking was that Locke just needs, like, a Call of Duty sniper or something. That would solve his entire problem.
I'll tell you what. Anytime I'm reading or watching a period piece, I'm like, man, what you guys could do with modern weapons and cell phones. The cell phone being the biggest one.
Hell, when I watch 80s movies, I'm like, just...
Cell phone!
You just need a phone. This entire movie would be over in 2 minutes if you could just make a phone call wherever you are. Jean is going to have to stay away since he is obviously in no condition to fight. And then they cut the Falconer's tongue out anyhow. While he's yelling, you promised, you promised. I'm not sure how I feel about that.
I'm glad they did it.
I think it needed to be done, but it's still so distasteful that they had to do that.
It was self-defense.
I guess so, yeah.
I mean, I know they had him held down. So it's not a typical example of self-defense, but if he could talk, he could get to them.
Right.
They had to do that. And they can't kill him. Otherwise, they would have just killed him. But they can't. That is also self-defense.
It's going to be awfully hard for him to tell somebody who did this to him if he can't speak and he can't write because he doesn't have fingers. I'm sure he'll figure out a way.
I don't feel bad for him. For whatever he said, oh, it's just my job. I'm just doing my job. No.
He went above and beyond.
He definitely did. And I think he deserves what he got.
Yeah, it was pretty terrible.
Yeah. I think that he should be happy that he's part of a group that would avenge him because he should be dead.
Yeah. We get to Raven's Reach. Locke makes it there with about 75 minutes until false light. I was really wishing for a little timer in the corner of a movie screen counting down the minutes.
Right.
For the rest of this chapter. He runs into Conte outside, of course, who throws him in a carriage and demands to know where the Salvara's money is.
And he's like, dude, least of your problems right now.
Yeah.
And the entire time, so he's sick and he's tired and he's malnourished and he's been in fights and he's still quipping left and right. He's so funny.
One of my favorite literary characters ever.
And you know what? I think he got Conte on his side in the end, and I think that Conte really respects him by the end.
Yeah, I'm trying to imagine Locke with all his quips against some other fantastically hilarious characters, or just people that always have good things to say, like Elizabeth Bennet.
Yes.
Who's just very sly. I still am dying for Dylan O'Brien to play this part in a movie or TV version.
So good. He really would do a good job.
Yeah. I can always just hear him saying all these things. He has the perfect timing. He's so good at that stuff. Locke can't convince Conte that he doesn't know where the money is, and he keeps trying to tell him that everyone in Raven's Reach is in trouble and he has to go inside. But Conte keeps kicking him in the face with his boot.
And what does Conte think? He's just gonna pull all this money out of his back pockets?
Yeah.
He's like, I got away. I was away clean and clear, and I just showed back up. Why do you think I did that? Could you use your brain for a second instead of your foot?
Yeah, I don't think anyone gives that enough credence, the fact that he came back.
Yeah.
He keeps saying it, but no one seems to recognize that that is a serious deal.
Well, they're just so glad that they caught him. They didn't stop to think about why he made that easy for them.
Maybe it's another con.
Well, you can't blame them if that's what they thought.
Oh, also, Conte doesn't know who the spider is yet. Were you surprised at that?
I didn't really think about whether he knew who it was or not, but I very much liked when he realized who it was.
Yeah.
I liked his reaction to that.
And so Locke keeps trying to convince him that there's something happening, and so Conte says, I don't believe you. I wouldn't fucking believe you if you told me my name was Conte. I wouldn't believe you if you told me fire was hot and water was wet. Whatever you want, you don't get it.
I liked when he said that. I wouldn't believe you if you told me my name was Conte. And we got the great backstory about why Conte was so loyal to the Salvaras, too.
Yeah, that was nice to hear.
That was a good one. I liked that little piece of information.
Yeah, the previous Don Salvara had been in the military, and Conte was as well, and he, even though he was nobility, he came back and saved all these common men that were fighting. And so Conte offered his service after all the fighting was over, and then continued to work for his son, who he says but also was a really great man, just more on the business side.
Right.
He's a banker, not a fighter. He asks Locke his name, and of course, Locke says it's Tavrin Callas.
You know, and when I first read that, I was like, oh snap, maybe that is his name. And I was like, no, he wouldn't have Jean using his actual name. But he just brought it out of nowhere. And then Conte's like, okay, like, hello,
yeah.
You know this guy, what he does is make up names. You're just gonna take his word for it? You should ask to see some ID.
I wonder if Conte doesn't know about multiple heists, if he only knows about this one. Because it's still kind of a secret that other noblemen and noble families have lost money to the gentleman bastards.
I guess, but even if he only knew about this one job, he still shouldn't just take his word for it.
I would love to see, like, Camor after all this happened, and just, like, wanted posters for Tavrin Callas for 8 different crimes that he has committed as Locke and Jean at this point.
Right. And the Thorn of Camor in parentheses underneath. Tavrin, Thorn of Camor, Callas.
With really, really disparate drawings of what he looks like.
With the drawing of Eugene from Tangled. Have you seen that?
I don't remember who he is.
Okay, so Eugene is the male character in Tangled.
Levi, what's his name from Chuck?
Zachary?
Yeah, Zachary Levi.
Zachary Levi plays him. And they keep putting up these wanted posters for him, and he runs around yanking them down because he says, they never get my nose right. That's why he's pulling the signs down. Because he doesn't like the way he looks in them.
Man.
That's the drawing I would guess it would look like.
Yeah. Just imagine the height problems. Everybody, half the people say he's like 5'6", half the people say he's 6'2".
Let's see, I think he weighed about 160 pounds. No, he was definitely pushing 300.
Yeah.
What? What? Also, there were 2 of him at one point, and they looked exactly the same.
So he finally convinces Conte to take him upstairs. Basically just gives himself up as a prisoner.
Yeah.
So they get inside, and Captain Reynard sees him and wants him put away in a windowless room, like in the basement, to wait until the festivities are over. Locke manages to convince him to take him to the spider. He says he's going to out Vorchenza to everybody, and that she's been compromised by a bonds mage. So when she cleared the sculptures, it didn't really matter. Locke is gathering this entourage of guards. He's getting led upstairs. He's got Conte, Reynard, and a whole bunch of blackjackets. Just what a spectacle in the middle of this feast.
And I can see that this was probably really hard for Reynard, because now that we have his story about how he's sort of the adopted son of Vorchenza, to know that this kid that he's dragging up the stairs punched his mom in the face.
Yeah.
You can understand that he's having a hard time not punching Locke in the face at the very least.
Yeah. They get upstairs, and Donna Vorchenza sees him and punches him in the face.
Understandable.
He definitely deserved it.
I mean, she did stab him in the neck, but
it's true.
Still.
And then Reynard punches him in the face. I was just waiting for the Salvaras to punch him too.
Just a punching line, kind of like a receiving line at a wedding.
I was thinking, Oprah, you get to punch him, and you get to punch him, and you get to punch him.
It also kind of reminds me of, you probably have never seen the SpongeBob episode, but there's a whole line of of like spankings where everybody's standing and they make like a bridge with their legs and somebody goes under their legs and everybody spanks them on the way. And then the next person goes and everybody spanks them on the way. I don't remember why they did that, and it went on forever. It was like this, like across the whole bottom of the ocean was a spanking line.
That show was hilarious.
It's really just insane.
It is insane.
It's a drug show.
What do you mean by a drug show? Like, you have to be on drugs to enjoy it, or the people who wrote it were on drugs?
You don't have to be on drugs to enjoy it, because there were definitely some moments that I thought were really funny. And I'm not on drugs.
So you say.
I think people watching it that are on drugs probably would think it's really funny. And I also think the people that came up with the storylines were on drugs. It's an insane show.
It's good. Gary was always my favorite character. He's the snail. He's so cute.
He is cute.
I wonder if they make Gary plush dolls. I want one now.
I'm sure that they do.
Locke outs Vorcenza as the spider when he asks about the bonds mage. And the Salvares and Conte are pretty surprised. Mm-hmm. Sophia keeps saying, I knew it!
And everybody else is like, okay, Sophia, this is not the time.
Yeah. She tries to hide it for a second, and Locke just says, oh, quit that. You're the spider, I'm the Thorn of Camor.
Everybody knows, let's move on.
And Vorcenza says that she did clear the sculptures. And Locke brings up Avram Anatolius, who was the Grey King's father, and explains about the children's revenge. And Spider remembers this. She kind of brushes it off. But Locke says all these sculptures from the Grey King are full of wraithstone, and keeps pressing her about approving them. And she starts to get confused and is thinking hard about it, and then slumps into a chair and starts screaming. Mm-hmm. Because she's starting to figure it out, and I think it's just conflicting with the brainwashing that she's had.
Yeah, it probably really hurt. It kind of reminded me of in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows 2, the movie, when all of the kids are in the Great Hall and Snape is there in the front and Voldemort starts talking, but it's inside their heads. Oh. And one girl starts screaming and everybody goes to look at her, and then another girl starts screaming and they just have their hands covering their ears and they're screaming and nobody else knows why.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I imagined her doing.
That's terrible.
Well, I mean, Voldemort's the ultimate villain, so.
Yeah. Donna Sophia says that she's going to look at the sculptures, and she is a very talented alchemist. And if anybody is going to be able to figure it out, she will. So their little group of Locke and Conte and Reynard and Vorcenza and Donna.
It's like a conga line.
Yeah, the two Salvares head out. Plus, I'm assuming they're probably going to be followed by guards.
Just like a line of 20 people. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. They probably would have looked less conspicuous if they actually did the conga.
Sophia starts to examine it, and Don Lorenzo, her husband, says, "Careful, Sophia." She says, "Don't teach a sailor how to shit in the ocean," she muttered as she peered into the window. So she realizes that the glass is going to melt when the fuse is lit, and the fire oil burns, and the smoke will then get out. She sees the wraithstone inside, and apparently just one has enough to take out the whole tower of people, which is a lot. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's overkill, because the smoke isn't necessarily going to make it everywhere, so you have to cover it.
And Raza didn't say where to put them.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I mean, what if one of them was in the basement? What if they put them all in the basement?
Yeah.
You know, the chances of them getting spread out the more he sent was better, but he didn't know that if they were all going to be effective or not. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't call it overkill unless he knew exactly where they were going to go and that they were going to get to that many people.
True. Sophia can't actually stop them from being lit in the first place without possibly setting it off. It's very bomb squad-y.
Yes, very much like the bomb.
Yeah.
A bomb.
It's Speed, but in a tower. Keanu Reeves steps out. Let me try. They're trying to figure out how to dispose of the pyramids, but they can't get them out of the building by false light and away from people quickly enough. So they start to get soldiers together to haul them up to the cistern in the Sky Garden so they can drop them in that well so the smoke is contained. Reynard gives orders to evacuate all the children very quickly. And actually, that made me nervous because the children start coming down the stairs, didn't they? I was afraid they were going to knock somebody over with this holding one of the pyramids.
Which is very possible. Especially with, what did they say, 8 people carrying them?
Yeah,
and that was too heavy for them?
Mm-hmm.
It'd be real easy for one person to get knocked off balance and the whole thing to come down.
They get it handled. Everything's gonna be okay. We think no one's gonna get gentled, which is great. And then they start talking to Locke because now he's really in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Forcenza wants to send him to the Amberglass Tower under guard, which is actually better than the Palace of Patience.
It's true.
Yeah, mainly just because he's been so helpful and mostly honest.
Well, he showed up to save all these people from a fate worse than death, which is what they said, and he didn't have to come back.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that it was fair to give him credit for that.
Yeah, and it said, Donna Forcenza looked at him curiously. Why did you come back to warn us, Master Thorn? Why didn't you simply make good on your escape? I'm a thief, Donna Forcenza, he said quietly. I'm a thief and maybe even a murderer, but this is too much. Besides, I mean to kill Raza. If he wanted it, I had to foil it. Simple as that. So simple.
Yeah. And the greatest thing, too, and I know this is skipping ahead just a little bit, is that Raza knew that everything had been ruined.
Yeah.
When he died. He knew that none of his plans had worked. That's great.
It's not just that he didn't get away. The money never got to where it was supposed to go.
Yeah, the money never got anywhere. The people that had the plague never got anywhere. The Wraithstone never got anywhere. Nothing that he had worked all that time and effort and all the sacrifices that he made and all the people that he murdered was for nothing because he did not get his way.
And his sisters were dead too.
His whole family. That was the rest of his family. What happened to his family was what he did to Barsavi's. They got completely wiped out because of himself. He did it.
If he had just killed Barsavi and then left it all alone, he would still have his sisters. And he'd be alive too. But because he had to go so far with his revenge, the original plan to kill the whole Anatolius family was complete by him.
Yep.
That sounds pretty karmic.
Yes, it does.
So Locke admits that he actually had to help Raza when he was tricking Barsavi. And that the Grey King, I don't know what to call him. The Grey King, Luciano, Raza, quadruplet guy, I don't know.
The 8th octuplet.
That the Grey King killed 3 of Locke's friends and took their money. Locke admits to stealing from the Solvares and from other families, the Demare, Yawaris, and Felucias. They had more than 40,000 crowns. At this point, he starts thinking very quickly. And he says he knows where the money is, and he'll tell them if they just let him go so he can kill Raza, and then he'll leave Camor. Did you think he was actually going to give up the money's location at that point?
I did. I thought that he was going to say whatever he needed to say to get to Raza before Raza got away. And if that meant telling them where it was, fine. Because he's been saying this all along. It's not about the money. Mm-hmm. So if you guys want to go get the money, if you think you can, whatever, just let me go and finish this.
Yeah, the spider keeps getting stuck on how they're going to get Raza, and they'll get him in the floating grave. And Locke says, "You idiots! Raza isn't commanding the right people. He's fucking using them. The floating grave is empty. Raza's escaping as we speak. He didn't want to be Capa of Camor. He just wanted to use the position to get Barsavi and wipe out the peerage of Camor."
And Locke's also saying to Forcenza, stop worrying about getting him. I am going to get him. Just let me go. You don't have to worry about him. I got this.
So Locke says he's going to tell him where the money is, and that he'll definitely leave Camor afterward. And Forcenza says, you presume too much if he thinks she's going to let him just get away with all of this. And Locke says, did the spider of Camor prevent Capa Raza from filling Raven's Reach with enough Wraithstone to gentle the whole fucking city? No, that was the Thorn of Camor. Thanks very much. Every man and woman and child here tonight is only alive because I have a soft fucking heart. Not because you were doing your job. You owe me, Forcenza. You owe me on your honor. Give me Raza and you can have the money too. And she agrees.
Because she's not an idiot.
Yeah, it's pretty clear that he's being honest until he then says that the money is buried under all the excrement on the excrement barges. And they're going to have to dig it out because he doesn't know which one it is.
Right.
So they'll have to dig into all of them.
That should take a little while.
Must have just been howling to himself inside, knowing what he was making them do.
Mm-hmm.
Though I feel bad because I think it was Reynard that said, that's why we have enlisted men.
Well, yeah, it's not going to be any of the people in this room that are going through it.
Yeah. He, like the Locke that we know and love, comes up with a new con on the spot. He says the plague ship is Raza's and was actually a backup plan if the Wraithstone didn't work. He says it's full of diseased animals that are going to be let loose in Camor, and they'll spread the Black Whisper plague. He tells Spider to sink the ship, and she obliges. So we go to the harbor, where the Satisfaction is out in the water, the plague ship. Orders are passed along via light signals. So again, I'm thinking Gondor calls for aid, like straight up just passing the signal across the city. And they start throwing alchemical fire at the ship. People are burning. The ship is burning. They can't put the fire out with the sand that they were prepared for this with. They were not prepared enough. And they're catapulting stones. They're tearing the ship apart. It only took 5 minutes from the Spider's command to get the ship to sink.
Yeah, they move fast.
Yeah. So we go to the floating grave, where Anatolius can see the ship sinking, and he wants to cry. I imagine not just because he's not getting away that way, but he also knows the bonds mages are probably going to come after him for that money.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know how he's going to come up with all that money.
They're going to have to raise it from the bottom of the ocean.
Oh, God.
Magically.
There's probably magic for that, right?
I'm sure there is, but I bet they'd be mad the whole time. He's like, you can have your money, you just have to go get it.
Didn't work out last time when he promised money later. One thing I don't understand about the whole plan with the Falconer and the extra money, he bought the Falconer for another month with the money that they were going to steal from the gentleman bastards. But the Falconer's the one who found out about it in the first place. If I were him, because he's pretty twisty, I would have just not told him and just taken that money. I'm sure he could have commanded plenty of people to go in and steal the money himself.
Maybe he swears some sort of an oath when he is retained.
Maybe.
I mean, I think it would be pretty, not dangerous, but you'd have to be pretty specific when you're hiring a bonds mage about exactly what you want, so you don't get, ferried or genied. And it would be to the benefit of the person paying to get some sort of a guarantee of service.
Yeah.
And a guarantee of loyalty.
And he was pretty loyal, actually. I mean,
he was.
Until they threatened his tongue.
I mean, he lost all his fingers for that.
Maybe that's something that if you kill a bonds mage, all the bonds mages come after you. So if a bonds mage doesn't keep to their contract, they also have to deal with the rest of the bonds magi. Well,
I mean, if you want to keep a business going, I guess you have to have some rules.
Yeah.
So, maybe so.
So the new Capa of Camor receives a bag. He opens it up. Inside is the body and head of Ventress. And also a folded blood-stained piece of parchment that just says, "We're coming." Did you know who sent this? Did you think it was just Locke, or did you know it was Jean?
I think I did assume that Jean had sent it, and that Jean was actually on his way.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. I didn't see it as a stall.
So he dresses up as the Grey King again in his full grey outfit, very symbolic. Kicks everybody out of the floating grave so he can await the gentleman bastards. Sits on his throne with a sword. And then Locke arrives, and he is very happy that the Grey King is still there. And he says Jean is on his way. At this point, Locke doesn't know about the message.
Right.
And he knows that Jean is not supposed to be coming.
Right.
So he's still conning his way through this.
And I was really surprised when he said, which I liked when he said, I only have to hold on long enough for Jean to get here. But then I was like, how does he know Jean's coming? He told Jean not to come.
Yeah.
But maybe he's assuming, just like I am reading this, that of course Jean's gonna come. Even if he told him not to.
Well, it was such a good bluff.
Yes.
Locke starts to talk to the Grey King about everything he's done.
Getting the whole story.
Anatolius says he didn't have a personal issue with gentleman bastards. It was just to tie up loose ends. They were too dangerous to keep alive. And Locke is appalled that Anatolius targeted children. Innocent children.
And another thing about his whole plan and him killing the twins and Bug that makes me so angry is that he already knew what those boys, what those men meant to Locke and to Jean, and he already knew that he could control Locke by threatening them. He did that. That's how he got Locke to pretend to be him with Barsavi. Locke didn't want to do that, but it was to protect the other guys. He could have just done that to get the money. He could have used the Falconer to get the money. You know, they could have written out Jean's name and told Jean to bring all the money to them. there's no reason that those guys had to die. There's no reason at all. He had enough power to do other stuff. I mean, I guess maybe the story needed Locke to be fueled by the revenge to get all the way through to the end of the plan. I just don't think it was that great of a plan. It was too complicated. It didn't have to be that complicated. Kind of like Lord Voldemort. All his plans were way too complicated, too. It's like, you put your spy in Hogwarts for a year because you want to get Harry Potter in a graveyard at the end of the year. Just take him in the beginning, dum-dum.
Yeah.
What are you waiting for? Turn his quill into a portkey. Why does it have to be the cup? Just, why are we making these so much more difficult? It's like, it's because of the grandeur of it.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't just want to get what he wants. He wants to be seen as so brilliant and diabolical.
Oh my god.
When there was a much simpler way all along. He already knew what strings he had to pull to get Locke to do what he wanted. He should have just done that in the first place.
He just wants to watch the world burn.
It's exactly right.
Locke again says, Illa Justica via Cala, justice is red. Which I guess just means, I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah, my justice is going to be your blood.
So they start to fight, and Locke is pretty fast because of adrenaline, but the Grey King is still faster.
Well, also, Locke might be fast because of his adrenaline, but that doesn't make him any better.
Yeah, that's true.
And he's adequate, but he's not great.
And he very quickly realizes he is seriously outmatched in this fight. Not just in energy, but in training as well.
Even though he's using his correct hand, his dominant hand, he's still outmatched.
The Grey King is Inigo Montoya. He has been studying swordplay.
Yes, he has.
Since the Six-Fingered Man killed his father.
And he is probably also ambidextrous.
Probably.
He's Inigo Montoya. He's Inigo Montoya and also the Dread Pirate Roberts combined.
Oh my god.
He probably can, ingest iocane powder and survive.
Mm-hmm. And has a fantastic set of bangs.
But you know what he can't do? Survive being stabbed a lot.
Yeah. I love the middle of the fight when it becomes very obvious that Locke is not nearly as good of a fighter as Grey King. I'm just going to read the little piece here that describes the fight. You're not actually very good at this, are you? Says Raza. It would be to my advantage if you thought so, wouldn't it? That was Locke. At this, the Grey King actually laughed. Oh no, no. With one decisive gesture, he flung his cloak and mantle to the ground. A wide grin had etched deep furrows of anticipation onto his lean face. No more bluffs, no more games. And then he fell on Locke, his footwork a blur, his brutality unmatched by anything in Locke's memory. Behind his blade, there were 20 years of experience and 20 years of blackest hatred. Some tiny, detached part of Locke's mind coolly registered his own inadequacy as he desperately flailed parry after parry, chasing phantom thrusts with his eyes and hands even while the Grey King's steel was punching through cloth and flesh. Were you worried he was gonna die right here?
Was I worried Locke was gonna die?
That he was gonna completely lose this fight?
No.
I mean, it got real fast.
I mean, I was worried that he was going to lose the fight, but I didn't think he was going to die. I'm not sure how I thought he was going to get out of it. But I figured out somehow he was going to.
Yeah.
It's sort of, again, like back to Inigo Montoya, where he got cut and stabbed in both shoulders and stabbed in the stomach.
Mm-hmm.
But his motivation was enough to push through these severe injuries that would knock anybody else completely down and they couldn't get back up. But he has enough pushing him with the thought of Callow and Galdo and Bug and what's been done to Jean too, even though Jean is still alive. That is worth more at this point than his physical energy. It's enough to get him back up every time.
I wonder if this is a purposeful nod to the Princess Bride, because this part of the story parallels it so much.
It really does. Yeah, it's definitely familiar.
I like it because The Princess Bride is fantastic.
Greatest movie ever.
I never have read the book. I feel bad about that.
I feel like I should read it too, especially since it's my favorite movie.
I think I own the book too.
Ooh, I should own the book.
We should both own the book.
We should both read the book.
We should. Yeah, I also was thinking a parallel with Arya Stark with her sword, sticking with the pointy end. And
yeah.
Locke was her when she was young. And Raza is her when she is older and much better with her sword.
Yeah. And she survived a pretty severe stabbing, too.
She did. She better survive everything, I'm just saying. Locke breaks his wrist when he falls at one point because he just keeps getting stabbed.
I hate when people talk about the crunch of a breaking bone. It just is... Ugh.
It's visceral. I don't like it.
It's not good.
He can't even use his arm anymore. He is basically sure he's lost the fight at this point, but he does not stop fighting.
He doesn't have anything else to lose by continuing to fight, so he's going to continue to fight until he can't fight anymore.
I do love that he just never... I mean, so many people could just give up and just lie there because they know they're going to die and just let it be done.
Right. He doesn't mind dying as long as he's taking Raza down with him.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's where he's at this point.
So Locke, of course, tries to tackle the Grey King and gets a blade straight through his arm and out the other side. Ugh. All I was thinking was, Ibelius is going to be so mad.
I can already see him, like, when Locke and Jean come in, just roll his eyes.
Yeah.
Seriously, you guys, I just fixed you. And you're already broken again. You know what, though? He is going to be super excited that that's what happened. That's why they're hurt. Or that's why Locke is hurt. Because that was the whole reason he was helping them, was to make sure that Raza got taken care of. So he'll probably cut him a little slack. But he'll still roll his eyes.
Locke goes straight playground and bites the Grey King.
Hey, you do what you gotta do, Locke.
Mm-hmm. The Grey King says that Locke can't beat him, which is pretty true. And this is when we finally find out why we had that interlude in the first place. Way back when, where it showed that Locke didn't have to beat someone, he just had to wait for Jean to show up.
I loved that sort of flashback to a flashback.
Yeah.
I really did.
The Grey King was saying, you can't win, Lamora! You cannot beat me!
Locke's like, I don't have to!
I don't have to beat you, motherfucker, I just have to keep you here until Jean shows up.
Yeah, I love Jean.
And then he manages to trick the Grey King. There he is, motherfucker! Locke yelled, spraying blood across the front of the Grey King's shirt. Jean, help me! The Grey King turns, and that's when Locke takes advantage and gets his dagger and shoves the dagger in and kills him. And the Grey King realized this halfway through him turning, but it was too late. He realized it was a bluff. Which, when I first read this, I was like, Jean's here! And I was like,
that's what I thought too.
Jean's not here.
Jean's not here. But good job, Locke.
I felt so bad, though, because he was so alone at that moment. And that part made me sad.
It made me sad, too. However, even though he was faking out Raza, he was not expecting Jean to show up. So even though he was alone, it wasn't like he was alone waiting for somebody.
Locke starts naming Kalo Sansa, my brother and friend, Galdo, and Bug. We find out his real name was Bertilion Gadek, which is not what I would have expected for Bug.
And I also wasn't sure, was that supposed to sound familiar? Because it didn't.
No.
Okay, we don't know anybody else with that name.
Yeah.
It was a big name for a little guy.
It was. Oh,
yeah.
Little Bug. And so, at this point, the Grey King is dead, and Locke collapses, and he's starting to bleed to death. And then, bum 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 bum! Jean to the rescue!
Jean! Yay!
It's so nice to see him come in.
Oh my gosh, yes. What a relief.
But we knew he would not be able to leave Locke alone.
Oh, I knew he was going to show up at some point.
Yeah. He's not going to sit and wait like a good little soldier. It turns out Jean saw the ship burning, the plague ship burning, from the other side of the wooden waste. And from there, he saw Locke enter the floating grave. And he just started running to come help him. Locke is not patient, so he was not going to wait. He didn't know he was coming anyhow.
Yeah, there are a lot of things I would use to describe Locke, and patient is definitely not one of them.
And he's wondering how exactly he managed to win. And Locke says, I made excellent use of your reputation.
He's bleeding to death and he's still making jokes.
And then there's this bittersweet moment between Locke and Jean. So this is revenge, Locke mumbled. It is, whispered Jean. It's just, they've gotten what they've been trying for. It doesn't feel that great. It does not get them back everything that they've lost. Locke tells Jean to leave him there and run. Leave me, Jean. I'll be dead. Just a few minutes. They won't get anything from me. You can still get away. Please, leave me.
And Jean's like, have we met?
Jean's face turned bright red, a red that showed even by the light of the alchemical globes, and his eyebrows arched, and every line in his face drew so taut that Locke found the energy to be alarmed. Jean's jaw clenched, his teeth ground together, and the planes of his cheeks stood out like mountain ridges under his gilding of fat. "That is a hell of a thing for you to say to me," he finally hissed in the flattest, deadliest voice Locke had ever heard.
He can't lose him, too.
No. But I will say, I do like when Jean dresses down Locke.
Yeah.
Because he's better at it than anybody. And he knows Locke so well.
Yeah.
And Locke still is just trying to save everybody else.
Well, and Jean's kind of like, yeah, I could run, but you've killed Raza. There's nobody left to avenge or to take revenge from. What would I do?
Yeah.
If Locke dies, Jean has nobody to go after because Raza's already dead. He'd have no purpose, and his entire family would be dead. What would he do? It's just crazy for Locke to think that he might say, oh, okay, I'll just leave you here to die and I'll run away then? Is that okay?
I'll just go find my secret girlfriend and we'll live happily ever after.
We'll go read some poetry. Yeah, it's crazy for Locke to think that Jean would ever go for that.
This is a little off topic, but I really want a t-shirt now that is just a picture of Jean and or just like a mousy woman sitting there reading poetry with a man, just says Jean's secret girlfriend.
That'd be cute. That. Or the two of them from the back with her having a little book and her leaning her head on his shoulder. And his back, the back of his shirt says Tannin. That'd be cute.
I need an artist. I can't draw. I need someone to draw these things for me.
Well, I mean, silhouettes from the back is easy.
Says you.
I could do that.
I could draw a stick person silhouette like nobody's business.
How are you a stick person silhouette? That's not what a silhouette is.
I don't know. Okay, fine. I can't even draw a stick person silhouette.
Just because there's no such thing.
It probably looks the same from the front as it does from the back, so if you can draw a stick person...
You're fired. You just need to stop. You're terrible.
So, Jean picks up the Grey King's cloak and uses it to create a sling to carry Locke like a little baby.
Aww.
And just starts running. Running. So, listeners, the next interlude is only half a page long. So before we get into Rosanna's top 3, I'm going to read it. And Rosanna, you're going to be so happy because we finally get to see a character that we've lost, that we've been missing for so long.
It's Father Chains, isn't it?
It is.
Yay!
Are you ready?
Wait, is he the one that makes the prophecy?
Yes.
No, he makes it?
Yes.
Huh.
He is a seer.
No!
No!
Oh, no?
Let's read it and find out.
All right, let's hear it.
You ready?
Yeah.
This is Interlude 16, A Minor Prophecy. Father Chains sat on the roof of the house of Paralandro, staring down at the astonishingly arrogant 14-year-old that had grown out of the little orphan he purchased so many years before from the thief-maker of Shades Hill. "Someday, Locke Lamora," he said, "someday you're gonna fuck up so magnificently, so ambitiously, so overwhelmingly, that the sky will light up, and the moons will spin, and the gods themselves will shit comets with glee. And I just hope I'm still around to see it." "Oh, please," said Locke. "It'll never happen." And that's the interlude.
Seriously, that's it?
Yeah, that's the whole interlude.
That's not even a real prophecy. That's just him saying what's gonna happen. Oh,
Which is literally a prophecy.
I know, but it feels like there was such a lead up to something like, we stand over this babe, who we have christened Locke Lamora. I mean, no, this is just a guy going, man, you are going to screw up so bad, and I know that based on everything you've ever done. Well, at least we got to see Father Chains again. And It's too bad that he didn't get to see it.
I know, my god.
He probably would have been really helpful in this whole scheme.
Though he probably would have gotten killed, too.
That's a good point. But he would have died to save...
Yeah.
Callow and Galdo and Bug. He would have. And he might have been able to.
I'm sad that he never knew Bug.
I'm sad about that, too.
Alright. In the next episode, we're going to discuss the epilogue called False Light.
And that's the end.
That's the end of the book. Then we move on to the next book.
Yay!
Any ideas for what false light means?
The end of something.
It's transition.
Because it's the end of the day, you know, when you
Yeah.
go from day to night. So, moving on, maybe. Locke and Jean going somewhere. I mean, Locke's already told Vorcenza that he'll leave Camor.
That's true.
So, maybe that's them deciding what they're going to do, or having already decided and going to do it.
Okay.
I don't know where they're going to go, though.
All right, Rosanna, what is your top 3 this time?
So this chapter had so much going on. But the parts that stood out to me the best were when Locke got the upper hand. These are the top 3 times Locke beat Raza.
Yes!
Number 1, Raystone pyramids in the water. Number 2, satisfaction torched.
Ha!
Number 3, he dead. Mic drop.
Or Mike very gently lolling out of Locke's hand as he bleeds out on the floor.
Or Mike swinging around it and then hitting Raza with it. Bam! Right on the head.
I like it.
Yeah.
Very lasso-y like.
And I'd like to think that at some point, a little bit later, when Locke is healing and he's not, he's got some of his blood back. he's made more blood. That he will feel the satisfaction of really beating these 2 men working together that shouldn't have had such a hard time beating Locke.
So he's not the Rolling Stones, because they can't get no satisfaction.
They can't get no satisfaction.
Sorry.
Just that Locke will feel proud of himself that he beat these 2 men that should have been unbeatable with the power that the Falconer had.
Yeah.
He should feel good about that at least, because he did avenge the murders of his brothers. Mm-hmm. He shouldn't have had to, but he did it, and he was successful, and he talked his way all the way through to where he needed to get.
So speaking of beating people that seemed unbeatable, the Bonds Mage, he's incapacitated the Falconer. Mm-hmm. He didn't kill him, but do you think that he may still be in trouble with the Bonds Magi?
I'm not sure if they have, tracking devices. I don't know how they would know where the Falconer is or what's happening to him. I think it would be a good idea for Locke to turn him over to Vorcenza. Get him locked up and the key thrown away.
It's a good idea.
Because he's not dead, but he's also not dangerous.
Well, and she's not very happy with him either.
Right, and maybe she'd be willing to take him and look the other way while Locke left.
We just see them, somebody opens the front door of Raven's Reach and
he's just sitting
the
there
Falconer
bound.
just hog-tied on the porch.
That's exactly what I want. With a little note from Locke, to the spider, love the thorn.
Here's your fly.
Yeah, I would love that. That would be amazing.
Predictions for the epilogue? I know you've said a little bit about you think that they're going to leave or have already left.
Yeah, I think the epilogue is going to be either the planning of or the carrying out of their next step.
So it's not like a Harry Potter epilogue 20 years in the future where Locke is married to Sabitha and has children named Chains and Bug.
I hadn't thought of that. If Sabitha shows up, but it's been 20 years, I will write a very strongly worded tweet to Scott Lynch about that. No, I don't think it'll be 20... Well, actually, in Harry Potter, it was 19 years in the future. BTW. But,
fun.
I do not think years will have passed.
Okay.
Well, okay, maybe that's not true.
It's not Vikings where we lose 4 years an episode.
I'll rephrase it, because I don't know, Scott Lynch. We have not had many conversations one-on-one. I hope that the epilogue is not years ahead. I'll just say that. It's not a prediction, it's just a wish.
Now it's time for Cheek of the Week, where we talk about something awesome that we want to share with you. All right, Rosanna, what's your cheek this week?
My cheek this week has many facets.
Oh.
This week was my birthday.
Happy birthday to you. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Ooh, ooh, give it up for my birthday.
Uh-huh.
Go, Rosanna. It's your birthday. So, my birthday, of course, is amazing and fun. My youngest daughter's birthday is also my birthday. Yes. So, we get to have our little fun joint birthday twinsies. We went out for pizza dinner. We had cake. We actually had 2 cakes. Mom made us each a cake because we like different kinds of cake.
Mom doesn't make me cakes.
Well, she spoils us. Well, you live too far away.
I know.
I got lots of amazing, wonderful, thoughtful gifts from all of our family. And my in-laws were very generous. And everybody's just amazing. We went shopping today. And we got all kinds of cool stuff. I just had a super awesome birthday. And then later on this weekend, Jeff and I are going to go stay in a local hotel, casino, and we're going to have a nice dinner, and we're going to gamble a little bit. It's a super awesome week. And then there's 4th of July, so I have extra days off, which is even better. And Mom and Dad got me Wonder Woman high top Converse.
Oh my god. That sounds awesome.
Are amazing. I love them so much. The laces, it came with 2 sets of laces. One set of laces is black, and the other set is white with the tiny little teal Wonder Woman logo all over them.
Nice.
They're so cool.
You should get, like, bright yellow ones like her lasso.
Ooh, like gold. Like a gold shiny lace. That would be fun. So, if anybody else is interested, the Wonder Woman high tops came from Journeys, I believe. I'm not sure who else sells them. You might be able to get them from the Converse website. My birthday was brought to you by my parents, who gave birth to me. And my daughter's birthday was brought to you by me.
Happy birthday, Gabby.
Spending my entire 26th birthday in labor.
Oh, God.
So pretty much it was just an amazing week. I mean, it was a whole week full of amazing things, ending with the 4th of July, which is brought to you by Hamilton, I guess. So many cool things.
Happy birthday, Rosanna.
Thank you, Nikki. You're such a considerate and wonderful, sweet sister.
Thanks.
All right, listeners, you can visit our website to find out about all of our cheeks. You can learn about the other podcasts that we do, send us questions, and please send us feedback. We would love to hear what you think of the show. And if you want, you can support the show through our Amazon affiliate link, somethingcheekypodcast.com/Amazon.
That's our episode. Please leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow us on Twitter at SomeCheek and Facebook.com/SomeCheek. And get ready for next week, which is the last episode of this book before we start the new one.
I'm excited and also nervous.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
Digga-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.